Hey everyone, very exciting news. Drawn to It podcast has its very first sponsor. This is a big milestone for us, and we couldn't think of a better sponsor than cat-animation.com. They're an online art school, animation school, and they believe that it is possible for students to get high-quality online classes and mentoring in animation, story design, and much more by experienced, caring, highly trained professionals, and it's all at a reasonable cost. The instructors meet the student where their talent level is, and they work very hard to bring out your best. They do this with time-tested exercises and critiques and techniques. With a choice of small classes or one-on-one mentoring, you really can't go wrong. They have something for everybody. If you don't like to learn in a large classroom, you find it distracting, and it's not friendly to how you learn, you've got that option to get that one-on-one mentoring by instructors who have worked on some of the best animated feature films of all time. Classes and mentoring slots for spring semester of 2021 in both beginning and advanced studies are forming now. So get your spot reserved. Very limited capacity. Don't miss out on the chance to learn and grow by Disney-trained feature film animators and artists currently working in the industry. Visit www.cat-animation.com for details on classes they are offering, and you can find out more about the instructors teaching them. That's www.cat-animation.com. They're looking forward to working with you in the future and helping you become an animator. My guest today is the very talented Nik Ranieri, a Disney feature film animator, and he shares his story, his journey growing from television animation to feature film, right here on Drawn to It podcast. So my question is, were you an attentive student during high school? Meaning the teacher's up there lecturing and you're paying attention, or were you busy drawing and thinking up, the whole imagination world during class time?
Okay, so let me see if I can go back to that time. Honestly, I really feel like I was pretty attentive. I did well in certain subjects, but not in others. Depends on how much of an interest I had in them. And sometimes I was able to just get through courses by just writing everything down and then spilling it out on a test, and studying it, spilling it out on a test, and that type of thing. I had there weren't much lecturing going on. It was more, I'm writing this stuff on the board and you guys got to copy it down before I erase it. And that's sort of the way a lot of it went. And the only thing that I didn't do was, which really affected my future especially in art, was I had a high school teacher who was a former commercial artist, and he was really good. He gave out assignments. He never gave a perfect 10 out of 10. That's how he graded everything. All of our assignments, all the artwork we did he never gave a 10 out of 10. He always said that if you got a 10 out of 10, then you shouldn't be in high school. You should be in the field working. So that was his idea. But the big thing that the one thing he didn't like to do was teach art history, but it was a required part of the course. And so he taught it, but he taught it in the most extremely boring way possible. And I didn't really care about it because all it was is just facts and figures. And this guy did this painting and this is what it meant. And we didn't discuss it. He just wrote it all down on the board. We copied
Right.
it. We're supposed to study it. And I just had no interest. But all my other stuff in there, I did all the logos and all the assignments he did. I usually got an 8 or a 9 out of 10 on my stuff.
Yeah.
So on that side of it, that was really good. But then the art history portion of it brought my grade down and didn't allow me to get into college with because my grade point average was low, especially in my commercial art. And they thought, at Sheridan College where I went, they saw that as, oh, he's not very good. Whereas they didn't even think to look at, okay, well, what exactly did he fail on? Was it drawing? Was it this? Was it that? No, they would have found out that it was art history. So,
what year were you at Sheridan?
What year?
What? Yeah.
I was at Sheridan College from, let's see, 1979. I was there for 1 year and I took art fundamentals, and then I sort of failed art fundamentals. I failed like 5 courses in that because when I got in, the reason I took it is because I wanted to pursue animation. And they wouldn't let me in, and they suggested art fundamentals. And I said, well, I don't want art fundamentals. I know what I want animation. Oh, well, we can't let you in there because your marks are so low. And okay, fine, whatever. So I took it, and they had animation as part of that, art fundamentals course. So I took, I got like an A+ in the animation, and in the drawings, I got a B. In illustration, I think I got a C in illustration, or maybe a B, I can't remember. But things like, textiles and lino block carving and crap like that, I did not care less about.
I know. Me too.
and the creative process by John Wheeler, that stuff. I just flunked all those. I didn't even go to the textiles class, because I stayed home and I actually worked on an animated film. Then when I failed, the guy says, where you failed, you can't go into animation. It's like, look, I got an A+, I got all these marks. And they said, doesn't matter, you failed these. So unless you take these classes again, you can't go into animation. And he goes, personally, by looking at your marks, you probably wouldn't make it in the animation industry anyway. So
wow.
So I took a year off, and I finished the film that I started. Horrible piece of work, but I didn't know.
Do you still have it?
Oh, I have a copy of it somewhere, but
do you have a digitized copy?
Do I have it digitized? No, I don't think I've digitized it. I think I still have a Super 8 copy of it. It was my ability. The problem is unlike today, if I had had the tools of today, it would have been so much easier, because I was like painting cells and lying them on my bed, and and the idea of 2 frames, animation on 2s, it would have taken me forever to finish anything. But nowadays you can basically animate the whole thing and put in as many drawings as you want. You don't have to, there's no cells, there's nothing, all that stuff. I mean, there's so much available to people nowadays that wasn't back then. So
well, I mean, these have been a game changer. I'm holding up a Wacom stylus, and I mean, any high school student with one of these has essentially a studio in his house, her house, their house,
animation studio in a box. That's pretty much it. I mean, that's true. It's
exactly. Yeah. Now, do you do a lot of work on paper still? No.
I mean, unless you're talking about, drawings or something like that for, character drawings for people or something like that. But professionally, no, there's just no way. In fact, I sold my desk. The Disney sold me my desk that I had for like 20 years. And
Yeah.
then it was sitting in my room, in my upstairs in my attic, and I'm just like, somebody asked me if I could sell it to them, and so it's like I took an opportunity. I don't know if I'll ever get back to it. So I
Yeah.
took the opportunity and sold it to a guy who was buying, those Weber desks, because it was one of those Weber desks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a collectability for animation is one of those weird crafts where those who are in it, where it's part of your DNA, we have such a, almost everything becomes almost like a religious relic to us. Like it could be a certain version of an art of book released in the early 70s or something.
Yeah.
Or, this pencil was used by, Bill Pete or something like that. Like it just, everything becomes this religious relic that we romanticize and put on display and hope that some of that through osmosis will add to our own talent. But it's just, I don't know if doctors do that. Like this stethoscope was used by so-and-so,
Yeah. Let's hope that's all they do it to.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, that's my heart feels kind of sad knowing that you sold your Disney desk.
Well, the guy that bought it, he was somebody on the East Coast somewhere. I can't remember exactly where it was, like Georgia or Atlanta or something like that. He said that he would make sure that the desk he refurbishes them, right, and fixes them up a bit, and he said, I'll make sure I'll put a plaque that this was your desk. So I thought, hey, can't get any better than that. So
no, that's cool.
So yeah, that was good. And I think I gave him the rest of the stuff too. I had a whole, like a box with a bunch of what do you call the plastic sheets where you field guides.
Oh, the field guides, yeah.
Yeah, I had a collection of those from the things like that. So he got a pretty good deal, I think. And
yeah,
man. But while I was pulling out the desk and cleaning it out, think about this. As I was pulling it out, I pulled out the shelves to clean them, and I found an old drawing that was
no way.
Yeah, that was stuck, and it was a Cinderella washer mouse. Rough.
Really? And you kept it, right?
Of course I kept it. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know whose it is. It's probably an in-betweeners or something like that. But the idea that thing has been in there for like 70 years. And for 20 years of my career, I didn't even know it was in there.
Man. And how many times did you fill and empty that shelf, right?
I don't think the thing is it's the bottom drawer. I pulled out and actually unhinged the bottom drawer so I can.
Oh, wow.
And it was stuck behind there because it doesn't have it's not through to the floor.
Right.
It was stuck back there. So it's just, wow, the idea. And from Cinderella, that's pretty amazing. Like
that. Oh man. I wonder if there's any way you can find out if it's just an in-between drawing or, but then
I guess I'm sure I could find out if I really push it, but it looked like an in-between to me. It didn't look, and it's a washerwoman, so obviously, more than likely, it was given to a junior animator to animate, that type of thing. And so, and I know my desk wasn't an animator desk. I think it was a cleanup desk because just the way it was shaped and everything. So, I mean, now it's an animator desk. But
yeah. Wow. There was a big difference because I always just assumed it was, same desk for everybody and that. No,
there's certain like shelves on both sides or something like that.
Right.
They had it on one side, or I can't
to accommodate a certain workflow and that type of thing. Yeah. So, that makes sense.
So
yeah,
it was fine.
So you mentioned, you fail that first year of art fundies. Do you go back through it again to get into the animation program, or what's your course?
Well, what I did is I took a year off and I finished the film. And then I went back and reapplied for the animation course. And I said, look, here's the film I did while I was off. And I showed it to them, and they said, okay, we'll put you into the program, but you'll be on probation for the first semester.
Oh, man, there's always that thing, that little jab there, right?
Like, whatever. Okay, whatever that means. I mean, if the probation takes effect and they kick me out, then okay, what's the probation for? Not doing my work? Well, what am I going into the course for? We're not going to. Anyway, so it was just like, yeah, fine, whatever. Probation, okay.
Yeah.
And so the first day, it was pretty funny because we all introduced ourselves and everything, and then the teacher, you know, she had a teacher named Vivian Ludlow. I still remember it. She was the first thing was the waving flag, and, and she's up, you know, on the whiteboard drawing, and it's like, okay, now you draw it, and then you have the curve, and then it goes over, and then there's wind that catches the other curve, and you know, this type of thing, right? And so I'm sitting there, and I have my book or whatever, and it's closed, and I'm listening to her, and I'm listening, and I'm going, okay, yeah, I got it. Goes through the wind. If you're looking from this side, the wind's coming here, so it pushes it, and then it pushes this out, and then it flaps. So you're absorbing all this, and as she's talking it, she stops and looks at me and goes, "Don't you think you better write this down?" Like,
she called you out.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'll write it down. Whatever. You know, the fact is that I don't need to write it down. I understand it. It's not like I'm going to forget all this. I gotta, you know, it's a principle. Yeah. It's, you know, so I get it.
Yeah. So, my first year at Sheridan, I was there circa 97, 98, around there. So that's when they had this big drawing competition to get in. Like, they shortlisted you, and then they brought everybody to the campus and put you in groups.
Wow.
And said, okay, your drawing test begins now. So this group would have to go into the life drawing studio and do, I don't know, half an hour of gestures, or I can't remember exactly what it was. Over half of the people were crying. That's not an exaggeration. There were just people, nervous sweats, crying, pit stains on people. The anxiety was through the roof, and I didn't appreciate it at the time. But looking back, what I know now is I was in a room of people who were trying to chase their dream, and they were so passionate about it that moment was the most important moment in their whole life. Right there and then. And if they screwed it up, how could they wake up the following morning and be okay with it, right? So we had that drawing test, and there were a couple other things, and it was chaos and madness. And I remember, for me, I didn't get in, but my two friends who had done the art fundamentals course, Dave Shepstone and Dave and Ann Shepstone, now they're married to each other. They had gotten into the animation course, but we had all worked on our portfolio submission together. So I felt like just so bad. But during the whole process of going there, I had been very, very kind and friendly to the receptionist. I would go see her every day, and I would say hi and hope, you know, just chit chat and that type of thing. So there was a student, what do they call, you know, not a student from within the country, but outside. Anyways,
exchange.
Couldn't make the course.
Right.
Yes, couldn't make the course, and she called me and she said, "Do you want that spot?" And this was like the day after I got my rejection letter. So I had been just crushed all day, all night. Woke up continuing my crushedness because I was already in an animation course in Miramichi, New Brunswick, being taught by Harold Duckett. And I was doing okay there. I could have just stayed there because a lot of people think it's where you go and that guarantees the future,
Yeah.
when really it's how much time you spend sitting down, putting the line mileage in and going over the principles and getting good at them.
Yeah.
But it seemed at both colleges, they were just filled with people who wanted to sit and bitch about the college and not actually sit down and do the work, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but no, sorry, I went off on a tangent there. But
you know what's interesting is that with Sheridan, I mean, it got a lot worse. I visited about 5-6 years ago, talked to some of the teachers there, and the amount of privilege that has been infiltrating this whole thing, and all the PC stuff. It's a lot of them just, well, one of my friends, Pete Emsley, just got had it. I'm out of here, you know. Yeah. Because of there's just too much of that type of fooling around, and a lot of people weren't serious about the school. So
yeah, like your class, when you were there, they let you in because you had put all this work into an independent film, which, I mean, that's what most students hope to get out of it when they leave, right? And the truth is, most students don't finish their film. They get a couple good scenes, and the rest is animatic, right, usually.
Right.
But you had shown them this film that you put all this hard work into. They let you into the program. So you're there, like you're in it, right? You are dead serious about it and very passionate about it. Was your class full of people that were like-minded as you, or were they like going out every night drinking, coming back, and not really doing it?
I think there was a 50-50 balance of that thing. I mean, there were people who were really serious. In fact, my third year class, probably have the most there are people who are working in the business even to this day who were from my year, and like Reg Bordage, who's, you know, and Steve Williams, and you know, guys like this. Let's see, I'm just trying to think now. Even people that didn't really. I'm trying to think. Man, I'm blanking here. Bob Walker, who's in my year. Rick Sluter.
Wow.
You know, Cal LeDuc, and there was just a whole Howie Parkins. You know, a whole lot of people who from our year who ended up working in the business, and a lot of them in LA and all that. And we were considered by the teacher. Jim McCulley, who taught there for years, we were considered the worst year he'd ever had because they were just insane, you know. And we had Harlan Williams in our year. Wow. Who didn't, you know, continue in animation, but made a name for himself, you know. And they were all crazy, and so they drive Jim nuts, and so why it was so. I think eventually they took themselves seriously. I mean, Reg and some of those guys, they were crazy, but they had managed to get their film done, and me, Rick, and Cal, we managed to get our film done. And second year, this was for just so we could submit it to the whatever showcase or the Olympic thing that our year, that was, we had to create a film that the college could submit for the animation celebration contest for animated films or something like that. And so we did one, you know, we did a film called Common Problems, and it basically took me a year to finish that thing. In fact, we didn't get it done. It was a second year project, and it was only half done by the time the year ended. So I came in on this in the summer and continued to work on it. And then when we came back for third year, we just focused and finished the whole thing by December and got it done. Wow. And then we started something even crazier, which was we wanted to do a minute commercial. and we wanted to do a commercial for Duracell batteries, right? And
Wow.
Rick worked at the Duracell at the time and all that, and so he wanted to get into other things. Like we started to work out rotoscoping and things like that, and 3D backgrounds. So he actually built like the old Fleischer rotating set. He actually built a contraption so that we could film ourselves and the rotated background and all that. But it was so ambitious that we never got done. We got a couple of things done, a couple of models done, but we never were able to finish the thing because it was so ambitious and we just ran out of time.
Well, I mean, that's the pitfall a lot of students fall into.
Yeah.
Is the ambition of what if and wouldn't it be cool if just builds like this monstrous snowball, the avalanche just flows. And, you know, it's like trying to talk to a wall in a lot of cases when you're, as an instructor, you're trying to say, listen, keep it simple, focus on quality, not quantity, you know? And they're like, yeah, but if we do this matrix camera move and then the thing explodes, and you're like, whoa, okay, you know?
Well,
good luck.
You know, we worked hard.
Yeah.
We just, our eyes are bigger than our stomachs. Whereas I remember there's one guy who the first, you know, the very first week or so in third year, he's sitting around reading, and I'm like, well, aren't you going to work? I said to him, and he goes, man, we got all year. Okay. Just chill out, man. Fast forward to like May, and he's like trying to finish and scribbling.
Yeah. That was crazy. So you worked on this film by yourself to get into Sheridan. So this independent film, who taught you the basic techniques, the flipping techniques and that type of thing of animating? And by the way, where did you have access to a peg bar? Or were you using a duotang, as some people do it that way, you know?
I think I got, because I took the animation course, they introduced me to peg bars and stuff like that. So I had a floating peg thing. That was it.
Yeah.
So based on the information that I got, I was like, okay, you got paper, and then you trace it on the cell and all this stuff. Yeah. I mean, again, it was all with the repeated graph pen, you know, tracing every drawing and all this, and then painting back. I just like, oh my gosh,
sounds like a nightmare.
It was. And of course, you look at it, I look at it now and I just think, man, there's no animation there. It's so limited. And I know why, because it was just a nightmare to try to get any fluidity. I didn't know.
Well, you're one guy trying to do the work of 12 people,
right?
You know.
Now
yeah.
Also during that time, there was I lived in Toronto, and there was a TV show on a local. It was an all night. Was called the All Night Show, and there was they just showed old TV shows and old movies and things like that. And it went from like 12 to 6, you know, all night show, right? And my brother was friends with somebody who worked there or whatever, and somehow he got me doing some bumpers for the show. And
nice.
And so what I did is I also I did these little 15 or 10-second little bumpers for the show, and you know, we had to be shot on Super 8, you know, so the lighting was a problem and all that. I didn't have a proper animation camera, but through there I also learned a lot too, trying to make sure that it was fluid and flowing. And because it wasn't such a long, like that first film that I did to get into college, that was like a 3-minute film, because I just basically animated a song, you know, and and that is, so it was, that's why it took me so long. But these were quick little 10-second things, and so I could put more time into them. And and so I learned a lot through there, but it wasn't until I finally got into Sheridan, started to study animation and really what goes into an animated movement and all that, and started to look at old films and slow them down. We would buy old films like 16 mil, and there was a huge Steenbeck in the school in one of the rooms where you put the reel on there, run it through, and you could go single frame through it.
Yeah.
And all that. So
such a big machine and just a little tiny screen.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But we were able to slow through and do action analysis on a lot of this stuff. And and that was invaluable. You basically, not to say that the teachers weren't helpful, but a lot of it you taught yourself. And if you didn't have an interest in trying to do that type of animation and trying to improve your craft, then you really didn't succeed. There was a guy that got all the way, and he even graduated, but he just didn't have it, Yeah. His last film, he got it done, but it was horrible, Yeah. And in fact, there was a story where he, while he was getting reviewed for his final grade, and he had to show his film, he showed it, and the teachers all went, "This never should have been made." And he said to one of the teachers, he said to Jim McCulley, he goes, "But you approved it. You approved my boards, and you approved the film. Why, if that's the case, why'd you approve it?" And he goes, "I did?" Then the guy goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, I must have been drunk."
Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad you brought that guy up, because just behind the curtain here we have no. And that happened in MBCC Miramichi. My uncle was in the course with me. He made it all the way through, was valedictorian, and actually didn't work in the industry. And it wasn't because his work was bad. His work was fine. But there was just something. There was not that I don't know if it's ambition or what, but that thing because you kind of got to go chase after the job, right? And don't stop until somebody says yes. Not very much unlike an actor auditioning, right? You get no, and then yes.
True. Difference between an actor and an animator is that you're going out for a specific part as an actor, right? And you're either not good or you don't look the part or whatever. But as an animator, your odds are better because they need a whole bunch of you. So it's not as demoralizing as being rejected because you have brown hair instead of blonde or whatever, or you're the wrong race or who knows.
No, that's an interesting segue into what's happening today with a lot of production companies, marketing firms are going animation just because shooting right now costs too much with all the COVID guidelines. Have you noticed an uptick in the animation stuff?
Well, not in my thing personally. I mean, I'm fortunate that I'm working on a show that can be done at home. It can be done remotely. So I'm very blessed with in that situation. I'm able to do that and work at home. But I can see the benefit. I don't know if there's so much of an uptick as there is just a gratefulness that pretty much business as usual. You can keep producing product. You don't have to be on set with people and that type of thing. So I'm pretty isolated here. You try to keep up in the industry, but I haven't talked to people it's almost 9 months now. It's just a couple of times where I've gone out and had a lunch with someone, but you got the mask. So
it's different.
Yeah, so I don't know. I've tried Zoom meetings and things like that, but it's really difficult. I hate Zoom.
Yeah, yeah. I do too.
It's good.
I
It's good
do
for
too.
long distance things, but there's this social aspect that you miss from all this, and so sometimes I
Yeah,
get a little cabin feverish here.
yeah,
But I am still grateful that we're still able to keep going, and I don't know for how much longer. I mean, right now where I'm working on The Simpsons, we're working on the final season, and I say final one. You got to understand that according to people who've worked on it their entire careers from the very
hmm
beginning, every season was potentially the final season, and then
yeah. I've heard that said about it.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then they get picked up, and it's like, well, 20 years is a good run. Oh, we got greenlit for 21. Okay, and they work on that. Oh, we got greenlit
yeah,
for 22, and every year they're like anticipating it, and people are saying no, it's not going to end. But I mean, 2 years ago we got picked up for 31 and 32, so that was good. But
yeah,
we're working on 32 right now,
yeah.
and so yeah, we
Oh, that's
haven't
great.
heard anything.
That
So
no, that's great. I mean, Simpsons is one of those. It's almost safer to bet that it's gonna keep going than it's gonna stop
yeah.
with the momentum it has right now. I mean, what's it on? You're saying 32, so why not 33?
Yeah,
You know,
as long as you got
why
the
not?
actors and they're still doing and still voicing,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know how they keep going, but
yeah.
it's
Well,
pretty amazing. But it keeps a lot of people employed, so that's
yeah. When you're at Sheridan and you're at that end stage, you've gone through the boot camp. You're ready to go out into the workforce. What's that first job, and how did you feel about it? Were you nervous or excited?
no. I'm okay. Excited, yes. I mean, more
Yeah,
excited that it was in a city that I didn't live in, which means I'd have to move there. So my
right.
first job that I got was working for Atkinson's up in Ottawa, Canada, working on a show called The Raccoons.
Mm,
Um, Basically, I went around to places in Toronto and nobody was hiring and all that. And I was green, so no one knew me from anybody, right? So, but a lot of
yeah,
people were saying, oh, there's a TV series starting up in Ottawa, so go up there. So I went up there, all, hey, I just our second year film won an award, so obviously they're going to want to meet me, right? And I get up there, and everybody was in place. I don't even know if I did a test. I think
yeah.
it's some sort. They put me in layout.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Not my strong suit. Never was. And after about a week or two in layout, they transferred me over to animation. I originally
hmm
applied for animation. I showed the film, but for some reason they didn't have the room, or they weren't impressed enough, or whatever. Thinking, hey, I got a finished film here, but they didn't. Right?
Yeah.
So I was full of myself, really. You had a lot.
I
I had a lot of confidence,
guilty. Yeah. Me too.
and that was that was that was part of my downfall in that place. I think. I mean, humility is an underrated quality, I find.
Yes, and it's not something that the uh, newly initiated adopt,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can relate to that in a very big bad way.
So I went in, and didn't make it in layout, but then they transferred me to animation, and I was an assistant,
hmm
and so I assisted people and things like that. Just did assistant work, and I was looking at, as you're going through it. This is where the humility would have been good. I would sit at my desk and I would be working on this stuff and, assisting it and putting in-betweens in and things. And I'm thinking, man, I could do this stuff. This is not very good animation. I could, yeah. And doing stuff like, you had a list of all the animators up there. And so I'd be putting little ratings next to them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, things like that. It's like, oh, this guy's pretty good. This person's terrible.
Yeah.
Stupid things like that. And found out later that doing stuff like that didn't endear you to the directors or producers or things like that,
Yeah.
So basically, after about a couple of episodes, they were looking to promote people, and so they promoted me because I think I did a test. Mm-hmm. And they liked it, and so they promoted me and all that.
So they were like, "Okay, you're talking the talk. Let's see you walk it."
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
And so I did a lot of stuff. I mean, I got a lot of my bad habits out on that show. I still have clips of the stuff that I did. A lot of it was, Warner Brothers white drawings and
yeah
all that stuff.
Yeah, which doesn't fit the style at all, but it's still
you watch some of I worked on the first 7 episodes of that series, and there is stuff in there where their characters are zipping and popping and doing especially the pigs. They're like doing all these weird expressions and things like that.
Oh, you got all Chuck Jones with the expressions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Chuck Jones was my favorite director. So
me too.
I any indication where I could have one of those look and just throw that stuff in, because to me that was comedy.
Even
if the dialogue didn't even fit it, it didn't matter. If I could put it in, I would.
Yeah. Oh man. And how long until you well, before I ask that question, was when you were in Sheridan, did you have a dream studio to work for? Was it Disney? Was it Warner Brothers? Or were you just going to go with the flow?
We, at the time, Secret of Nim was coming out, and we thought Bluth. That's where we want to go, Bluth, because you see the quality. Secret of Nim's a beautiful film. And we thought that was the future. And so, we all thought Disney was impossible. Even people,
because of location, or it was just so high up Mount Olympus.
Yes.
Okay.
It was one of those things that even if you were an American being able to get into Disney, it was so the next thing was Bluth, and that's pretty much where our sights were set. And then after that, I mean, you realize that Bluth, unless you became an American citizen or was able to get a work visa or a green card or whatever, you just forget that dream, right? So the next thing for me was, I just need experience, and that's when we heard about the Atkinson thing, and so I went up there, worked for a year at Atkinson's, and then I heard about one of the guys, Jamie Olaf. He was working with me at Atkinson. He left to go to Montreal and work for a commercial studio, Pascal Blais.
Next best thing to feature film.
True. And so he called me and says, "Hey, do you want to come down and work at this commercial studio?" And I said, "Well, sure." So I went down to Montreal and met the Pascal, and that was rough going for about a few months. Jobs would come in, and we would do little things, but a lot of the stuff we did at that time was local things, and it wasn't high quality. He would try to make it as high quality as possible, but it wasn't national spots.
No, well, you've got that production triangle, right? Like good, fast, cheap. Pick two. So yeah.
So I mean, I worked a little bit there. I did, and then I talked to a guy named Greg Duffel, who was the owner of Lightbox Studios in Toronto, and he was doing national spots. And so I left Pascal and moved back to Toronto and worked for Greg for about a year. About a year. And that was that was one of the best decisions I ever made. He was a tough person to work for because he had a certain amount of old schoolness about him. That was good, but it was also difficult because he had this idea. He wanted to do it like the masters. So he wanted to shoot everything on film, send it out, and bring it back. But at a commercial timeline, you can't.
Yeah, that's tough.
It was incredible. Yeah. And I said, well, can we get a testing machine so I can test this stuff and then fix it, and then we can get this stuff going? And no testing machine. We need to send it out like the old guys, and you need to flip it, and you need to roll. It's like, I get it, but
yeah.
You got 2 weeks to do these shots, these spots, and I, you know what you want. You can animate. I'm saying this to him. I said, you know what you want, so you animate what you know you're going to approve. Whereas I have to approve this. I have to try to figure out what you want, and hopefully you'll like it enough to approve it. And so what would end up happening is that I would, they would keep docking me pay because I would never finish my scenes on time because I keep having to redo things.
Right.
And it was really frustrating for me. And eventually I did things there that I shouldn't have done. It was more out of frustration than it was out of humility, out of pride.
So if the Breakfast Club were to be a metaphor for your career, you would so be the guy with the cut off gloves and the just that ultimate rebel. That's been your pattern up to this point. You're just kind of, and not out of malice either. I mean, that's a legitimate thing to say, listen, if we had a pencil test machine, we could crunch through this stuff so much better.
Yeah.
But it's going against the grain of the environment you're in, right?
Yeah. And so again, it was one of those things where it was really difficult. I slept under my desk many times. I'd stay, I'll do all-nighters just trying to get this stuff done. And, I eventually got to the point where it's like when we had a blowout and he just let me go. And I was kind of glad in a way. And then I'm sitting around going, oh, now what am I going to do? And a friend of mine, Cal Leduc, came down and worked at Sheridan on the film together. And he says, I'm going to go over to England and look for work there. Do you want to share expenses? And I said, sure. So we flew to Dublin. We went to Bluth to see if they were hiring. And we stayed in Dublin for 3 days. And then we were going to fly over to London and check that out and see what the hiring. And we heard about Roger Rabbit. And so that was one of our goals, is to get there. And we went into Bluth and the first day and said, we're going to be here for 3 days. Is there a way we could get an interview? And they said, oh, yeah, sure. Come back in 3 days. And I'm like, okay. The third day came around. We, hung around Dublin for a while. We came back the third day and they said, oh, we can't see you right now, but why don't you just leave your reel and we'll get back to you. It's like, we flew all the way to Dublin. At least you can give us a little bit of a break here. And, and I said, well, first of all, I can't leave you my reel because it's the only one I got. It was a VHS PAL. I had it transferred specially so that I could play it in the UK. And it was my only one. I couldn't leave it. So I said, I'll just leave my resume and we'll see you later. So I went over to England and showed my reel around and all that. And and my drawings. I went over to Richard Williams' studio, and he was good. The guy who was running it at the time, a guy named Andrew Ruhrman, said, "Yeah, we'd like to hire you." And I said, "Oh, this is great. I really want to work on Roger Rabbit." And he goes,
Yeah.
"Oh, Roger Rabbit. Well, this is Dick Williams' commercial house. Roger Rabbit's Disney UK in Camden Town." And so he gave me directions to go over to Camden Town, and they hired me. They hired me there and started me out again as an assistant.
Yeah. And now, when you started that first day there, you feel totally comfortable, like you're confident, or is there like, I'm amongst giants here, or what?
Well, first of all, I started out as an in-betweener. So I wasn't among giants. I was on the in-betweener floor with a whole bunch of other people who were in-betweeners.
Right.
And so, yeah, I never really, I don't know, it just sort of worked. And the first scene I got was Bob Hoskins running away with a huge pig head on his shoulder, which...
I just watched the clip about that earlier today, and how it got cut from the movie, but it was the first completed shot or something. Wow, that's really coincidental, actually.
Yeah. So I, worked on that, and then they assigned me to the guy who was a junior animator himself.
Yeah.
They assigned me to do in between his stuff. He was doing Baby Herman. I didn't know it at the time, but he was one of those glorified assistants where Nick would train some of these people, and he would block out the shots of the scene that he was animating, and then he would give it to one of his animating assistants, and they would flesh it all out. And this was a training sort of thing, right? I didn't
like a apprenticeship type thing?
Kind of, yeah. And I didn't know that's what was going on. But this is what would happen. And I was trying to get promoted. Even when I got there, I wanted to get promoted. And I said, I don't know why I had my reel. I guess they didn't like my stuff. And the guy that they gave me, put me with, they said, well, can I look at it? I said, sure. So I showed him, and he watched the whole thing, and he says, there's some good stuff on there. And it's like, I thought so, because I put everything, all my commercials and everything. And so he went up and he showed a guy named, one of the supervisors up there named Simon Wells. He showed him, and Simon Wells liked some of the stuff, but nothing really happened. And one day, Dave Brown was the guy's name, the animator's Dave Brown. He went up, and Dick was going over a scene that he was doing, and he was going over his drawings, and he was up there for like 4 hours as Dick went through all his drawings and all his. Wow. And as he was there, they got to talking, and Dick told me this later. Dick says, David said, he said, you should look at my assistant's reel, because, he's better than I am. That's what he said to Dick.
Oh, wow.
And that was like, wow, that's amazing. So I'm working down at my desk. Dave comes down. He goes, you still have your reel? And I said, yeah, here it is. He grabs it and he runs off. About 15 minutes later, he comes down and he says, pack up your stuff. You just been promoted.
Wow.
Come to find out. Okay.
Yeah.
They were looking for people. The whole Roger Rabbit thing was really interesting, because there were animators there who didn't want to work for Dick, and there were animators who Dick didn't want to work with, and so there was a lot of animosity. Some people didn't get along with Richard Williams like other people did, and all that, but they needed people. So and what I also found out is that I put my reel together in chronological order. So initially, when he popped in the tape, the raccoon stuff came up first, and after about a minute of it, they turned it off. We don't need to see anymore. This guy's crap. Put him as assistant. But
Ouch.
what they missed were my commercial work, which is what I should have put first, from best to worst. But I didn't know. I'm thinking, they're going to watch the whole thing. No, they're not, So
well, that's just it. When you're newly initiated, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. And so I had an Asterix and Obelix commercial for Diet Coke that I did at Pascal, where it was full animation and it was live action animation combination. I also did a Sugar Bear commercial that was live action animation combination as well. Once David showed Dick Williams those commercials, he goes, yeah, you can do this stuff. Bring them up, So they promoted me. But what I didn't know, again, is that they promoted me to glorified assistant. I was an animator. But what I really was under training. And I didn't know that. No one told me. So I'm sitting there and I got my first scene, which was a Baby Herman shot where he's in his crib and he goes, I can pay you, right? And so these had Richard Williams drawings. I didn't know there were Richard Williams drawings. They were just drawings of Baby Herman. I go, oh, these are nice. They're for size and proportion. Okay. And so I just basically animated what I wanted to do. And I brought and I showed it to Dick. And he's sitting there and he's shaking his head. What do you think you're doing? And he comes out and there's no offices or anything. So it's all open plan. And he's like, what do you think you're doing? You're taking your 2 years experience out of college, out of my 35 years experience. What do you think you're doing? Changing my stuff. And he's screaming. And I'm like,
oh, man.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
and
you're looking for something to hide behind,
yeah, basically, I and then after the yelling match, I just was sort of shrunk down, and I just sort of and I did the scene again. Once it was just told to me what was expected, it's like, oh, I'm supposed to clean these drawings up and then move in and out of them. Okay, I got it now. Okay.
Right.
But no one explained it to me at the beginning.
Right.
So
after you'd been promoted to glorified assistant unknowingly, you had that initiation scene that failed and, that learning moment. Yeah. And then how many scenes after till you hit that groove and you're really flowing?
Okay. So let's see. I did that scene. I think I did 2 more Baby Herman scenes in that way. One was Stinks Like Yesterday's Diapers, I think. Yeah. I think I shared that with somebody. I think I shared that with Joe or somebody. And then I did the whole scene where my stogie, that one.
Yeah.
And those are the only 2 I can remember right now. I'd have to actually go into my files and remember what other ones I did. But after that, they said, okay, he's ready. So he really, Dick really liked the stuff I did with his work. And I tried to flesh it out as best I could and put a lot of nuances and stuff in the hands and all that. And then, so he promoted me and put me on the Roger unit. And
wow.
I did 2 shots. The first shot, it was, and they ended up being cut eventually. It was during the song, I'd love to raise some cane. Believe me, it's okay. That one, right?
Right.
And then if you can hear my scenes are in there, they changed the visuals. And it's like, who's your tailor? Quasimodo? And so I did this animation of him walking up the bar as Quasimodo. And that worked out really well. But then they rejiggered the whole section, and that was off camera now.
Right.
So those scenes went by. And then the next scene I got, which was the first official scene that ended up in the film, was oh, well, wait a second.
Oh, breaking news. Exclusive.
My first scene.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
This is my first scene. This is on the bar.
Wow.
Erase some cane. Believe me, it's not shame. It feels so great.
Yeah.
I saw this last year or so ago on a T-shirt, and it's like, that's my drawing. I got to get those shirts.
That is so cool. Now, who put the? Because even the secondary and tertiary characters that are of Disney and Warner Brothers, stuff like that, even though they're on model, there seems to be a drippiness to all of Roger Rabbit. Like there's this drippy aesthetic to the lines. Who did that? Is that Richard Williams? Like over the whole thing?
Well, okay.
Like there just seems to be a little where the weight should be is just a little bit more, I'm not talking just thick and thin, but sort of how the curve reverses back in and that type of thing. Just seems to be a little extra drippiness to all the characters, which I quite like.
I'm surprised. I mean, line quality wise, line quality was never an issue on that film. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
It was basically a nice, thin, clean line, because any thick and thin on that show would be lost, because there's so much highlights and shadows and mats and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All that you're trying to create a 3D, visual. And so thick and thin, it wasn't, there was no, it was all Xeroxed. It was brown Xerox to try to downplay the line. And it was, now if you're talking about animation, well, there's a different story. I
mean more of the animation and how the shapes were treated.
Here's my big problem with Roger Rabbit.
Can of worms.
Well, again, I mean, that's 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is that because of the schedule, we were working 7 days a week. I mean, I lived at that studio. I was there from 7 in the morning to 12 at night. It was insane. It was so much work because everything had to be on ones, and people take shortcuts. When you animate on ones, you have to animate on ones. You can't animate on twos and in between. Or in certain cases, animate on fours and in between. What you get is underwater, mushy, sloppy animation, underwater ears, all that stuff that really don't have weight because you're animating on fours and you're just calling for in-betweens, 1, 2, 3, in between. It's just
right.
So there's a different mindset. When you're animating on ones, you have to chart for ones. You have to think about how you're doing things, where your slow ins are and all that. It's a little bit different than on twos, and ones are great. And you can do both, twos and ones coming out of it, depending on the action and all that. One of the things I learned on that was how, this is on twos, this is on ones. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean? Well, on twos, you're overlapping the previous. So the person's eye sees that overlap. So when if you were to put all your drawings on, you would see a constant, there'd be no breaks. Whereas here, there's a break. There's a space. So you get strobing if you're going up in this direction. So putting this as close to the previous drawing as possible reduces the amount of space in between them and thereby reducing the amount of strobing. So as you're moving through space, if you're following an arc or something, you can get away with twos. If you're going against it or you're doing, then put it on ones, depending on spacing and things like that. So those are the things that I learned on that show. And
what a great way to explain it. I've never heard it broken down like that before. It makes so much sense.
So and you could use those principles as you're going through, and every little action, like, well, where's the spacing? How's that going to work? Will it help if I put it on ones? Well, that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same thing with dialogue. It's very interesting the way people's eyes to minds work when they watch certain things. Things like major actions on verbal accents. How an action on an accent can be like 2 or 3 frames before it, whereas a dialogue accent can't be that far. It has to be closer to it, that type of thing. But it's the same accent you're working with. It's just the mouth accent is different than a body accent. And it's just these type of things that you learn. It's very fascinating. And I remember lots of times where I want to do an action where it's like, yes. And I realized I can't do that because this action and this action happen frames apart. So it's yes,
right.
Or
wow,
yes, that type of thing. Yeah. And so it's just and that's where the thing. When I finally got promoted, then there was a certain amount of awe. You were working with these people that Andreas and there's these people that we're in the business for many years. And
did you work closely with Baxter?
Well, Baxter actually started a little after me, and he was an in-betweener too. And so James was he was that he is a prodigy. There are people who are prodigies, and there are people who struggle. I struggled.
Yeah, me too.
Hard. Every single thing I've done, is blood, sweat, and tears. Get through that stuff. During the production on Roger Rabbit, there were certain scenes they wanted completed and in color because they were putting together a trailer. The worst was Russell, who was the head of Jessica. He had 75 feet he had to complete, and in like 2 or 3 weeks. You can't do it. It's insane. But they wanted these shots, and they only wanted like maybe half a second of each, but the whole scene had to be done because it all had to be comped.
Sure. Yeah.
So it worked out to like 75 feet. For me, the scenes that they gave me was it was a 14-footer, and it was probably hits you like a ton of bricks, right?
Right.
The bricks come down, which it wasn't a difficult scene, but the problem with it is that there was a slow truck out. So in other words, I have all this performance stuff, and then I have to shrink him slowly as he's doing all this performance.
Yeah.
And I had to keep on that stupid mark that he was doing. It's like, why didn't you lock down the camera?
Yeah. Were you doing it by eye or using Xerox cheat scale reduction?
We would use certain Xerox cheat scale, and then in between have this between.
Oh, that sounds so hard.
And it was a pain. A lot of stuff had to be done through that. I mean, now if we were to make that now, it'd be like a cakewalk. Oh,
yeah.
I mean, so, but yeah, it just about killed me trying to get that scene done because it's all on ones. I had to test it, and we had testing machines, but still, it was a lot of work for me and all that.
Yeah.
And James, they gave him the whole you and your laundry out to dry, and the smart ass or smart guy or whatever you want to call him hops down. But that was James's shot where the weasel comes up and confronts Eddie and then leaves, and the scene continues on with Roger coming out and kissing Eddie, and Andreas had that part. So they split the scene to get it done. It was like 25 feet or something like that, or 50 feet. It was 50 feet, something like that.
Right.
And James did it, looked beautiful. and I couldn't even get 14 feet done. He was able to do 25 feet, boom, like that. He was a natural. I mean,
wow.
it's just, that's the way he was.
And see, it's, I mean, to be that fast, you have to not only be a natural with drawing, the draftsmanship, but to have that understanding of the timing as well. I mean, that just blows my mind and frustrates me incredibly, to be honest about it.
here's a little story of that time. This is the only time I James did a scene. It was a weasel scene. It was a greasy, the green in the zoot suit weasel with the hat, right? He did this scene about him grabbing on to the ton of bricks or something. He was falling or something. And I think that was the scene. And it just didn't work right. And so Dick sat down with James and said, no, you need to do it this way. And he was going over all of James's drawings and all that. And we all know how that is. It's very difficult to take, you know, you afterwards.
Yeah. Was Richard being calm, or was he like, listen, yes?
No, he was being totally calm and everything.
Oh, okay. And that's better.
After he left, I went up to James and I said, look, man, you know, it happens to everyone. And he just looked at me and he says, well, it's never going to happen to me ever again.
Wow.
I got the image of him going home and painting a pentagram on this carpet.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's awesome.
And I never did. Actually, he did some incredible stuff. The whole character walking, Jessica and Roger at the end, the last shot, smile down your smile. That's all James's stuff.
Wow.
You know, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful Jessica walk. Probably the best Jessica walk in the film. Sorry, Russell, but
shots fired. Wow.
Well, I can't, he's amazing.
Yeah.
James is a really top-notch animator. It's nothing much he can't do, you know? And like I said, there are people out there who are like that, who it just comes naturally. But again, like I said, there are people who have to sweat. And if you are determined, my goal had always been learn what I can and just the next scene, make sure it's the best, no matter what it is, even if it's I don't know, a secondary character in the background or something. It doesn't matter. It's do it to the best of your ability. You can always learn something from it, you know, and somebody will always take notice, hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah. Yeah. And then from Roger Rabbit, what's the time difference from Roger Rabbit to when you're working on Beauty and the Beast? Okay. So basically, as we're getting ready to wind down on Roger, Andreas got a cassette tape. And on one side was Mermaid, now the other side was Aladdin. These were demos, right? Song demos and stuff, because it was the next picture that was coming up, and Roger was winding down, and he was going to go back, because he lived in LA, and he was going to, we all were in England for that picture and all that, and we were going to all go our separate ways. We thought there was going to be more work there, but they basically shut down the studio. So I didn't really want to stick around in London when they that, the studio will be shut down. I wanted to get to Disney. And so I talked to Andreas, and he said, well, you want to hear these demos and I put in the cassette and I listened to Mermaid. Now, Mermaid was already in production at the time. And I was blown away by the musical numbers. I thought, these are actually good songs, because up until then, you could count on one hand the amount of quality songs in the last 20 years. In animated pictures. So this was an entire slew of great
musical material. And I thought, I want to work on this picture. That's great.
Yeah.
So I actually, from the studio, I called John Musker and talked to him a little. And Andreas gave me an introduction, and I talked to John, and so I really like to work on it. And well, he says, well, why don't you come out to California for an interview? And I was like, okay, that sounds great, and all that. So once the what is it, the world premiere of Roger Rabbit that happened in New York, and so we were all invited to that for Radio City Music Hall, and so I went out for that, and then I got another plane ticket to fly out after that was done, fly out to LA, and James and we basically flew out together to share expenses and stuff like that. At the time, I didn't drive, and he did.
Right. Okay.
And so he drove, which was funny because he was from England, and he didn't quite have a handle on the left side, right side.
What better city to start learning American driving than LA?
Well, we got there late. And so I'm trying to figure out how to get Andreas. I stayed at Andreas's place, save on, expenses and all that. And he said, we'll put you up. We got an extra room and all that. Great. So we stayed there. So we had to get there, and so from LAX to Burbank, trying to figure out. I'm trying to read. It's dark because we arrived late, and so I'm trying to do this and all that. And James is getting turned around, and he says, "Well, let's take off this exit and turn and look at the map together, see if we can't figure this out, and turn on the light in the car so we can actually see where we have to go." So he turned off, and he's driving, and I said, something doesn't feel right, James. And he says, I feel that too. And I said, I think you're driving on the wrong side of the road. He says, you're thinking there's this truck coming towards us, like, turn off. So we pulled over and we looked at the map. Then we got back on the freeway on the right side and got to Andreas's place. And then the next day we went in and we got jobs.
Wow.
And this was, we found out later, everybody who got jobs from Roger Rabbit got higher pay than us.
Oh, wow.
And the reason is they were going to go and try to get us anyways. We didn't have to go out. All we had to say is yes. They were courting everybody who was working on Roger Rabbit. They courted all those people. A friend of mine, Joe Haydar, he wanted to go work in Germany with Phil Nibbling and all these people, some of the crew. They were working on this feature in Germany, and he wanted to go there. So that was his goal, because he wanted to be in Germany, right? And they called him and said, look, we want you to come out to LA, work for Disney. And he goes, no, I'm going to stay in Germany. Well, they called back a week later and upped the offer. And they kept upping it until he goes, okay, I'll take it now. And he told me this years later, and it's like, here we are, James and I, we go to LA, basically give ourselves to them, and they say, well, how about this? And we go, yeah, sure, anything. We just want to work here. Like idiots. We could have gotten, hundreds of dollars more a week.
Wow.
So,
Well, again, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. Live and learn.
Now, I've heard you talk about in other interviews where you talk about how you struggled with Ariel, the character Ariel, and how you found Ursula to be much easier because the character design had more landmarks that you could build the drawing off of. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that specifically, because I think a lot of people would look at Ariel and assume that is the easier character to animate, right? But I know what you mean, but I'm wondering if you could sort of break it down a little bit.
Well, basically, initially I got on there and I looked at all the characters and I'm like, I was thinking, put me on Scuttle or Flounder or one of because I spent a whole year just doing a rabbit. I mean, I did one or two Jessica scenes, but Jessica is she's pretty simple. She's similar in that way. She's got once Russell drew, here's how you draw it. And I go, oh, okay. I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can kind of get close. And then I would bring my drawings to Russell and he'd go over them a bit, and then I'd use those and all that. Ariel, on the other hand, because she's a teenager and all that, her structure is, you have to be familiar with that type of drawing style.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't something I was used to, you know. The last time I tried to draw a pretty girl was on, was it at Atkinson's, and whoo-wee, I worked on some horrible project at Atkinson's called it's called the Rush video, right? It was the band, the Canadian rock band Rush, and they did this half-hour special thing that was animated thing that was produced by Atkinson's, and I worked a bit on that. And there's this female character who was, I don't know, in a fur bikini or something. Oh, whatever, I can't remember. But
I cannot wait to YouTube this.
it's on YouTube, right? And I found it, and I thought, I wonder if these scenes hold up. And I went to the scenes that I knew I did, and I was horrified. I was like, oh, these are horrible, awful. And so that was the last time I actually did anything like that. And so I just looked at all the characters, hoping for Flounder, and then they said, yeah, we're gonna put you on Ariel. And I'm like, oh no, not Ariel. Don't throw me into the you know.
Well, Ariel's design is deeply rooted in that Freddie Moore thing. Yeah.
And the thing is that you've got this face, and you have to place these eyes just right in the middle.
Just right. Face. If you're just a hair off, it's all
work. And then the nose a certain way, and she's even in the movie, and you watch it, you see certain angles of her that you go, it doesn't quite work. It's really hard.
Right.
You know? There was no, at the time, I didn't even think I had a maquette. I don't think that I'm not even sure maquettes are even done by that time. But but it was so difficult to work with that. And I went to Glenn, and I went to Mark Hen, and I tried to get pointers on how to draw them, and they would just go here. And I'm like, I am never going to survive here. I just don't think I could do that. The other thing is that because Ariel is this girl, all of her expressions, there's certain cheats and things that you do. Mm-hmm. The first scene I ever got, it was in the grotto where Triton was confronting her, and she goes, "But Daddy, and so I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm seeing this and that, and I'm trying to draw it, and she looked like she was 80 years old at the thing and the satellite. And there's a shortcut. There's a simplicity pass that you do on that to keep as few lines as possible, just to get that expression, the shape of the mouth and all that. You don't have any lines here. Yeah. You don't have any of those folds or anything like that on a character like that, except in extreme cases, but you got to use it sparingly and all that. Rotations, that hair that keeps flipping, you're not sure which way it's going and all this. And then you got the floating hair and if it wasn't for Philo Barnhart, who was the head of cleanup on that, who took my drawings and actually cleaned them up and fixed them, I don't think I would have survived those shots, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, James got on, and, you know, a couple of scenes later, she's doing all this stuff with Ariel. It's like, I can't. Well, they put me on Ursula. Ursula has, like you said, the points that are locked. It's a circle, there's the line, there's the eyes, you got the shape of the brows, and let's face it, she's not the most beautiful woman in the world, so that covers up a multitude of sins.
Right.
This is one of the things.
So well put.
This is one of the problems I had, even after all those years I worked on Charlotte. Again, every drawing had to be pretty. Everything had to be beautiful. Everything, she's pretty, she's cute, you know. Those you can't get away with an ugly drawing, you know, and that's a hard thing to do. But Ursula, a little more forgiving in that way. So I was able to And even
But
then,
with Ursula, you've got those tentacles, right?
yeah, I know, but again, those are on full shots. I did a few of those,
Right.
but for the most part, they're
Yeah.
waist up performance stuff things, right?
Right.
But yeah, the and then of course, uh, I I don't know what I was thinking, but I fell back on the stupid Warner Brothers blur drawings and stuff. My first shots of Ursula. I look at them now. I'm like, what was I thinking? Why do you keep doing that? Stop it! Stop it! So I have these scenes during the song where she's like, "Go ahead, make your choice." You know, is it stretch?
Right.
Stretch?
Sure.
It's like, oh my gosh.
That got approved? Like that's in the film now? I can go frame by frame that?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, sweet.
I eventually got away from that. Some of the scenes I'm more proud of on that film. The last shot where she's welcoming Triton. How are you? Let her go.
Right.
Not so.
Yeah.
You know, not got rid of the stretch drawings and stuff. Maybe maybe a wipe one once in a while, but not the entire face stretching down like I did in that first shot. Again, it's just, I don't know. You just fall back on. I think I did a bunch of that on Roger Rabbit.
But here's
Roger
the thing:
Rabbit
during a sweatbox session, was any of that ever called out to you?
No, surprisingly not. It's just,
well, there you go.
I don't know. Well, let's put it this way. I had fights with cleanup because they kept wanting to take my scenes and put them back on model. And I understand, I get it, but it wasn't a problem. I thought they kept trying to take out the expressions on Ursula.
Right.
And so I did this scene that you listen to the dialogue and you hear, King Triton, how are you, right? And so my initial thing was not ha ha ha, it was which is what it sounded like to me. So that's what I did. I did and I did the lips shape like that. Well, I get the cleanup head went over the drawings and took that and made it a smile. And I'm like, it's not what it is. And I made a conscious effort to make sure that the character was on proportion, on model, but the lips were shaped in such a way that read that. That was the scene that was going to show them that I can do this. Trust me. And I had to fight. Well, what happened is the person who was cleaning up the scene for me was actually my roommate in the office.
Ooh. Okay.
And so I said, just please clean it up, do the best job you can, and get rid of these smiles and put it back to the way it was. I know this works. It works. They approved the rough. And she did it. So the way it is the way I wanted it. And I really am happy with that scene. I'm glad it didn't get butchered. So, but still, even after that, I made it onto the credits by this much. You had to have 100 feet to get on the credits. And I had 101.
Oh, man.
And
that's good, though.
I did. I got in the bottom of the credits there on that show. And then they had a congratulatory dinner, lunch or something at this place called the Rusty Pelican. And at the end of it, I was chosen to stick around for a little while afterwards. And they basically told a bunch of us that we were going to be let go.
Oh, jeez.
But they really needed animators on Rescuers Down Under, so they're going to keep you on. It was me, Chris Wall, a couple other people. And so we were saved, and we went on to Rescuers, and then the rest is just...
Well, I actually think Rescuers Down Under is a very underrated film. I think a lot of the animation in it especially is just amazing. But a question I have for you on that film, do you know who's responsible for the naked woman in the building?
Okay, first of all, that's Rescuers Down Under. That would be Rescuers 1.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
this is what I heard.
Yeah.
And this is from the guy who worked in the camera department. I wasn't an animator who did it. Somebody said it was a camera guy who did it. Actually found a picture and put it on the background as he was blurring through it. So it was somebody in camera who did it. And because it was going so fast, no one would ever see it. It was only on for one frame.
Yeah.
And then the other frame was blurred, or something like that.
Yeah.
But according to this source who worked in the camera department, or did all sorts of things, he said that's if I'm remembering it correctly, he said that it was a camera guy who did it. So
yeah, I had Gary K. Wolf on a few episodes back, and he went into a lot of detail about how a lot of those type of jokes, hidden Easter egg jokes, were mandated on Roger Rabbit. Like everybody knew they were going to be in there, and like Betty Boop's nipple, and and it was, some of them had to be argued to stay in it, which blew my mind. I'm like, wow, people really went out of their way to make sure that there are these hidden Easter eggs in there.
As far as I'm concerned, the only one that was mandated was Betty Boop. That's it. And Zemeckis said it was because they did it in the original Fleischers, and it was sort of a homage to.
Oh, I see.
He really wanted that in, so put a flash frame. He said, and I mean, it's taken out for the video release and all that, but the idea was that that was the one that was put in there as just a gag. Okay.
Yeah.
The other one, the no underwear thing, whatever. I remember seeing the frame. But I don't know. It was an animator, and I mean, I know the animator who did it, and I'm not surprised, whatever. I don't remember it. It didn't look like much of anything to me. It just looked like, it was, I don't know. It wasn't like it was really detailed or anything.
Right. I thought that too when I was younger, and we were going out of our way trying to find this frame.
Yeah.
Me and my buddies, and I'm looking at him like, it doesn't look like anything to me.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I used to say it's not so much that it was a flash frame, than it was just bad drawing or bad in between, or I don't know, So again, that one to me is that wasn't the only one that was, like I said, the Betty Boop one. That was the only one. And as far as all the rest of them are just misunderstandings.
Right.
The mermaid one with the knee in the guy who's performing the wedding and all that. The sex in the clouds, all that. I mean, there are logical and reasonable reasons for all of those.
Yeah.
And they make
not according to YouTube though.
Yeah, but they make a lot more sense than what is being talked about. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
Think about it. You got an effects animator going, I'm gonna put sex in the cloud. Who thinks that? And
I know
what type of I put sex. I put those in there.
Yeah.
Doesn't it make a lot more sense that it's SFX, special effects? Doesn't that make a lot more sense? Like, I'm gonna be clever and make it go SFX because I'm in special effects. These are special effects.
Yeah.
It's just more logical,
Yeah. No, it's I I mean, it is an art form though, where you can hide stuff,
Hey,
and only you know it's there.
I tried to hide stuff all the time. In fact, I mean, you remember in that Rush video, it was some sort of dystopian future thing or something like that. I think I put a Nazi in one scene. It was taken out, but there are people who are looking for this stuff. In fact, there's one thing that's hilarious. What was it? It was the Care Bears movie, the 1984 Care Bears movie. It was done at Nelvana. What I heard is there at the end, one of the scenes, it was a very expensive shot. Somebody put an Ewok. And they put it, and of course you get sued for that, right? But the whole thing went all the way through, went the color and everything, and they had to redo the shot and pull the Ewok out because
Jeez. So much work just to pull a character. Not today. Every character is on their own layer. Most times you just hide it, re-export it.
You know, but
yeah.
I mean, on Roger Rabbit, we also had the same problem. Whereas we were starting to use characters, and then we didn't get the rights to them, and so they had to be changed. Like,
oh wow,
Coco the Clown is in the film.
Really?
But Coco the Clown doesn't look like Coco the Clown anymore. Initially, he was animated like Coco in black and white. There's a scene at the very beginning of the film where the character goes, hi there, and you can see this clown bouncing. And that's Coco, but they lost the rights to Coco and they couldn't get it. So they had to put him in a pink polka dot outfit and put frizzy hair on him or something like that.
How crazy is it they couldn't get the rights to Coco? Who's looking for Coco?
Yeah, but again, you think about it. A major motion picture studio takes one of your characters without permission. They're making millions of dollars on this. You don't think a lawsuit would be, they'd have their lawyer phone right?
That I have no doubt of. I just can't imagine the negotiation trying to get the rights. And ultimately they say, no, we're not going to give you Coco on this monumental film that has Bugs Bunny sharing screen time with Mickey Mouse. And
they didn't know what it was. And they just saw it as a reason to make money. I mean, they wanted to put Tom and Jerry in. Tom and Jerry would have been in the movie, but they wanted $50,000 for each of them.
Yeah,
for the rights, and they said that's too much money. We can't afford $50,000 a character, and so they didn't get it. I think Coco was part of a package deal, and there was a funeral. What is it? The guy, the Stubby K character, Acme.
Oh yeah.
Popeye, Bluto. All this stuff. Elmer Fudd, they were pallbearers and all that. I read the script. I remember that. Foghorn Leghorn giving the eulogy, all that stuff, right? So they try to get all these characters, but again, they were insane. People didn't want to give up rights. The only smart ones were Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
They said their conditions were you can have 6 of our characters. And you can only have Bugs Bunny if he has the exact same amount of screen time as Mickey Mouse. Okay? Once Warner saw the dailies, they said, you can have any character in our arsenal. Take them all.
That's amazing.
They saw the potential. Yeah. Once they saw the dailies, once they saw what this film was going to look like, and they saw, this is going to help our brand.
Yeah.
So they saw that, and then they made a wise decision. But yeah, it was too early on, and so they lost out. But they were still
So you're on Rescuers, and you're getting your footage done and that type of thing. You're feeling more confident at this point working at Disney, or are you still searching for your spot, your flow?
Well, after Mermaid, I was like, I really need to up my game. And so they were sitting around. Production hadn't been done because there was just pre-production was having troubles, the script was having troubles. People were sitting around. No work was coming through. I guess we could have done tests, but you know, I think we did some tests. I can't even remember that time. But eventually they said, we need to get people working. And there was this project called Cranium Command in the other building, Airway, that they were working on, and they needed animators. So they asked a bunch of us if we would go over and work on Cranium Command. And okay, so I moved over just, briefly to work on Cranium Command. And that was a small group. Dave Brooksma was there, and Tom Cito was there. Pete Docter was an animator on it. Kevin Lima was an animator on it. There was a whole bunch of people that were on that picture animating and stuff like that. Rob Minkoff was the director. So, I did a mostly general knowledge animation on that show. And then at the end of it, there was this huge, at the end of the production, there was this huge scene. It was the last shot of general knowledge. He was in his little circle. I don't know if you remember the ride, but there was these 3 sort of circles, and they had characters speaking, and some of it was live action, some of it was animation. And so the general knowledge character had this 50-foot shot in there of him saying goodbye, Buzzy, and all that. And I had like about 2 or 3 weeks to animate the thing. And so it was all acting and all this stuff, and it's great, and you're doing great, and all this stuff. And so I put my heart and soul into it, just trying to get all those accents and this animation, and trying to be so full of life and all that stuff. And you test it, you learn. They had the Lion Lambs there. They had, was it still Lion Lambs? I think it was. But anyways, you just test it and keep testing it until you get it right and all that.
Yeah.
And it went through and everything. And I got back, and when we went back on The Rescuers, they put me on Wilbur. They said, the directors called me in and said, yeah, we saw your general knowledge animation. And I said, look, I'm sorry. I only had 3 weeks to do it. I really, there's things I could have improved on it. So I'm making apologies for this thing. And after I finished, they go, we liked it. I'm like, oh, okay. And
so you're already protesting before they've said anything.
Exactly.
You're like, I agree. Only an idiot would like that shot.
And so they said, we want to put you on Wilbur. And I said, sure, great. So they put me on the Wilbur the Albatross, which is great because it's John Candy, and I love his great voice, excellent voice. Which is one of those things where you dream. It's one of the things that, working on Raccoons, the TV series, the level. Okay, I'm going to be hurting people's feelings, but the level of performance couldn't compare.
Right.
What you would get in Hollywood. It's just, that's the way it was,
Yeah.
So you get a voice like John Candy, and the thing practically animates itself. You get so much inspiration out of it, and all these little things you can do and all that. So I started to work on, I think my first scene was where Bernard was saying, you're going to sit on this egg. And then there's, I think Jorn did the first part. You're getting no from me. I'm not, no. And then I think I had the end of that sequence, the last 3 shots or something on that. What? Where? I'm going away or something like that. So I did all those at the end. And then Jorn sort of flaked on the production. He took a leave of absence for 2 months, and they were trying to get things done. And so they called me in and said, hey, you want to be a supervisor on Wilbur? And I said, well, not for nothing, but what's there to supervise? Everybody's got their scenes. The character's designed. We got, 2 or 3 more months left of production?
Yeah.
And they said, well, you know, you get your name in the credit as a supervisor. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I really,
That is a real currency for people in our industry, the credit, you know. It counts because it's it's our little medal,
yeah,
you know, to get that credit. It's a little medal of you survived this production,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how it worked on Roger Rabbit, but my credit placement on that film shocked me. I was like,
Really?
what? What am I doing way up there? In the animated
Wow.
credits, I'm like second underneath the middle group.
Wow.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. I thought
Yeah.
I'm, you know, have my last name's R, so I'm going to be all the way down at the bottom, you know, or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But I don't know how I ended up there. But hey, great. At least I can find myself easy, you know. So
Yeah.
but normally it was based on footage. It was based on position and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I took that unashamedly. I took that and said, yeah, I'll take the supervisor role. And then I just sat down and I had that whole intro of him to do, and the whole thing. You want a pina colada? You want all that stuff? Yeah. So
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that, and I just worked my butt off on that, trying to. I learned a whole lot, and tried to do things like there's a scene where he comes up and he's about to pull down the little the little blind there that's like a fair from here to there, you know. He has
Yeah.
little albatross air thing, and so you know, there's an old thing from Friz Freleng where a character makes mistakes, makes him more human. Okay.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you, if Sylvester's carrying something, if he drops it, he has to put the stuff and pick it up and go. So it makes it more believable. All of a sudden you're into that as these characters come alive more. So when I had him grab the little thing to pull down, I had him miss it, and then I had him grab it again and pull it down, and that type of thing adds to the believability. And
Yeah.
a couple of years later, I was talking to an animator that started there and said that he appreciated that, saying, look how he missed it, and then he got it the second time. And I told
that's so true, because even in my own work, I don't do that enough. And yeah, you're absolutely right. That adds so much more depth to that.
It also adds more
character.
But it's
it's
work that's worth it. It's there's something about it where it just even little things like, you know, eye darts and glances and whatever, all that stuff, hand gestures and things. I mean, you just learn through doing these things and experience that what is the character thinking. And throughout my career, I was able and fortunate enough, blessed enough to be able to work on characters that stretched me. And that's, even though I pigeonholed myself into comedy characters, it worked out that I still kept that because that's what I love to do. I used to say the drama and the pathos and this, Glenn, Andres, you can have them. I don't want those characters. I want funny. I want to do funny. I like funny that has more. So, you know, I got to do a pantomime character.
Yeah.
But he was funny. I got to do a villain, but he was funny. I got to do a lead character, but he was funny. I got to do a pretty princess girl, but she was funny. In all those cases, I learned all different aspects of different characters, but still playing within my field of comfortableness.
So in that vein, along that point, would that mean that Emperor's New Groove would be like your favorite film to have worked on because of the humor-rich scenes?
I like to say that Emperor's New Groove is the film that I would have loved to have worked on had I not. And
I understand. Okay.
And because it was as close to a Warner Brothers feature as I think I've ever gotten and ever will get. It was, we had a small group. It was a buddy picture. It had sharp dialogue, really good writing, good ideas, funny stuff, great performances. Even though David Spade was a pill, he still put in a good performance. Excellent. It was, and I worked so hard on that. It was, that was a lot of work because I had to supervise both llama and human characters. And I spent most of my time on the human. I did a lot of llama, and I think, but if it wasn't for that very first, scene where he's in the rain and all that, I would have done more human than llama. But that scene was like 80 feet long, so that was a huge amount of work, a minute or two of animation, and so so I did about even amount of footage on both of those.
Yeah, I think that line test is on Pencil Test Depot.
Yeah. And most of the dialogue is me. So but and that is my voice. Except for one little part where it's David Spade's when the water dumps on his head and he goes that's David Spade. But everything at the beginning, that's all me. Okay? And that's an interesting story. But that whole thing, all on ones, all on that whole thing was more about secondary action, overlap, all that stuff that came with the dripping and the water and all that. That was a very difficult scene to do just because of the complexity of the hair and trying to keep them looking wet and all that. That took a while. It took about
Have you had a moment where you've animated a scene on any of the films you've worked on? Have you had a moment, I'm going to ask from both perspectives, where you've been called out for the scene being crap and you've been applauded by your peers for the scene selling so good?
I don't think. Okay. There's one.
Okay.
I had on Hercules, I had the whole Hades opening, the whole sequence. The introduction to Hades, when he's up in Olympus. That's all me. Okay. And I worked through that and, trying to get all the nuances. One of my favorite scenes in that is where he's walking by. Hey, good to see you. Nice going. Check out the girl there and all that. And then Zeus grabs him and all that. So the one scene that I dropped the ball, I was, what is this, an audience or a mosaic? And I always hate that scene because I wasn't sure what to do with it, but because I wanted to get on to the next scene. The next scene was the cool one, right? And I get this one done. And bad. That was that was a bad attitude to have. And after I finished the second one, where it was all good and everything, I was in the office with Musker going over it, and I said, I said to him something to the point of, I'm sorry about the mosaic scene. I don't know what was going on. I thought he was going to say, no, it's fine. Instead, he goes, I was wondering about that.
Oh.
It's like, you're not supposed to agree with me. And every time I
Yeah,
look
no
at it,
forgiveness for you.
every time I look at it, I just look at it and go, man, I wish I could go back, and I should have done. I don't know why I didn't do it better, but I know now. I know why I didn't do it better. But at the time, it was just like, yeah, I'll just A to B and get through it so I can get on to this good one. You know? Every now and then you have those moments. As far as
now, on the flip side, though, what's your best moment been where you've been like, wow, I just got complimented from so and so, you know?
Well, again, a lot of people like the Cusco dancing scene and all that. Let's see. It's so funny talking about compliments from your peers. You kind of look for that, but every now and then, you know, as that there was the Flintstones quote from one of the episodes. Every now and then, the moment of truth. And what that was for me was at the premiere of Rescuers Down Under. I supervised Wilbur, but some of the shots were animated by Jifui. Did a couple of air guitar scenes, and James Baxter did a flying scene, a dancing scene, and all that. One of the animators came up to me and says, "Hey, Nick, Wilbur, what you did on Wilbur, it's great. That scene where he's dancing, that was amazing." It's like, well, that was James Baxter. Well, you know, the scene where he's in the air flying, talking to the other birds, amazing. It's like that was James. It's like, quit my airhead, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, so again, it's one of those things where, you know, you did the best you can, but you know, and I think the most recent one was there's the best responses I get are not people coming up and saying, "Hey, I really like that scene," or whatever like that. It's the response I get, you know, like I had to do a test for young Charlotte. And the line was, "Daddy, Daddy, look at my new dress. Isn't it pretty?" Right? And so I had to come up with, what am I going to do with that? And so it's the whole thing. She's like, "Daddy, Daddy," and I'm bouncing around with the dress. And it got a laugh in dailies. And Eric Goldberg goes, "That's a great scene. That really worked out well." And that, to me, that was a great compliment, you know?
Yeah.
You get a laugh from animators, from your peers, and that's the character right there. And you just feel.
And we do place certain, we put people on pedestals, right? Eric Goldberg, definitely. I mean, what you just said, him saying that's a great scene, that's like, you know, for people that don't know who Eric Goldberg is, that'd be the equivalent of like Jesus Christ saying, "Hey, that's a pretty good person." You know, like,
yes, John the Baptist might have thought, "Oh, he just called me the greatest human that ever lived. That's pretty good."
Yeah. Yeah. So that's amazing, man. And so now let's kind of fast forward to today. You're working on Simpsons now, but do you have any independent projects that you're like? Andreas is doing his own stuff, and Glenn Keane's doing his own stuff now, and a lot of people who have worked. Well, this is true. Yeah, I mean,
I am not. But I'm not those. I'm not independent, and I'm not wealthy.
Right. So no short films in the works or anything like that.
Not right now. I would like to do some stuff. I mean, now that I have, you know, an animation studio in a box, I'd like to sit down and just spend my day animating my own stuff and all that. But honestly, you work 40 hours a week. Sometimes you do overtime because they need the shows to be done in a certain time. And, you know, I don't have the energy or the you know, to actually do something like that.
Yeah.
The other thing about having an animation studio in a box, is that if I want to do something like really luscious or whatever, I'd have to find somebody to do backgrounds. It's like, because I can't.
Right.
Yeah, there's certain limitations. I can animate, but doing a proper backgrounds, even picking colors and stuff, that's really hard and all that. So
yeah,
there are things that you have limitations when it comes to the
yeah.
the
What's your favorite software right now?
Well, I started on TV Paint, okay,
Yeah,
and that was really cool. But of course, The Simpsons, they work on Harmony.
right.
I have a TV Paint software, but I haven't touched it in years. I just haven't
Yeah,
had the opportunity. I've been all on Harmony, and now Harmony is like second nature to me. I bring up TV Paint, and I'm like, what
yeah.
to do again with this? Like, and TV Paint is, I don't know. There's some good stuff about TV Paint that I like better than Harmony. Just the look of it. It's not vector based and things
Yeah.
like that. But the last, what do I got? I think I got 11. I don't know what it's up to now, but
Yeah.
At that point, the camera move was lousy.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
the Harmony camera move is so much more user friendly, so much easier to deal with and to work with than the one in TV Paint.
Yeah.
But other than that, and then the other thing is that to get a certain amount of quality, like a 4K or something,
Yeah.
you're looking at 6-7 gigs just just for one scene because it's so heavy to get it.
Yeah.
So. I mean, because
that's the great thing about vector work, right? You just spit it out whatever size you need.
Yeah. So I mean, there is pros and cons.
Yeah.
And I think I have a feeling that unless they get their act together, I don't know, if they're going to survive the Klaus thing, where whole thing on TV Paint, and then it was Harmony that stepped up and said, "Yeah, we'll give you all this. We'll do all this if you go with us, and you can do it on our software."
Right.
They
well, I mean, you can. Go ahead. Sorry.
TV Paint what I've heard is that they weren't willing to work in that way, or maybe they did, or maybe Harmony just came and pulled the rug out from them. I don't know what went down, but what I heard is that the deal was better with Harmony. Sometimes you got to spend money to make money. So,
I mean, for so long, Toon Boom Harmony was the underdog, right? And Flash was, Emperor Supreme. And man, did that ever flip fast in the last, I'd say 6 years.
Yeah.
Really? 7 years?
Well, it's kind of like what was when VHS came out? it was VHS.
That's a great analogy.
And what was the other one? The bigger one?
Betamax.
Beta.
Yeah.
And Beta was a better system, but VHS made all the deals, and for movies. What are you going to buy? You're going to buy a Beta machine that has 3 movies available, or a VHS machine that has 100 movies available. You're going to buy the.
Oh yeah.
So again, and it's the same thing. I'm surprised Apple survived. The same thing in the 90s. I was a Mac person in the 90s.
Yeah, me too.
And try to find software for Mac. Forget it.
Yeah.
Everything was PC. I'm just amazed that Apple survived during that time. Because there was nothing, you barely get a word processing program.
I know. Yeah. No, it's so crazy to see the innovations that have come from technology influencing art. And I mean, I just like you, I draw everything is through the Wacom now. Very rarely do I draw on paper. I actually find drawing on paper intimidating now because I don't have the crutches I rely on when I draw digitally.
That's the thing. This is so funny because if you look at any of my old scenes,
Yeah.
you hold them up and they're all cockeyed and their paper sticking out and everything like that because
Yeah.
the peg strips, they had to put the peg strips on constantly and
Yeah.
reshifting and erasing hands and cutting out heads and placing it and all this. What a
Yes.
on this
And
thing, you just circle it, move it. The hand is beautiful. I love the hand I drew, but I just a little bit over there, it's done. It's
yeah. And even today, there is a little tiny voice when I do that that's like, "Oh, you cheater. You're cheating." But then I go online and I see other animators who I look up to, doing demonstration videos and stuff. And I see them do the same thing. And I'm just like, oh, thank God I'm not I'm not such a hack,
You know what cheating is? I'll tell you what cheating is. Cheating is taking someone else's work and saying that it's your own, or taking somebody's animation that they did and drawing over it and saying it, and you get the job because your animation was so beautiful, but it was based on someone else's work. That's cheating.
Right.
At Sheridan, Jim McCulley used to talk about testing machines and things like that as being a crutch. And
right.
Well, if you're handicapped, you need a crutch, and I needed a crutch. Testing machines, to me, the ends justifies the means. Yes, I could be. Yes, I can flip, and I can test. I can do this and all that. I have horrible habits. I have, when I used to animate on paper, people say, "I want to study your the way you do things." And it's like, no, you don't. Because I have I am totally left-handed. I draw with my left hand. I flip with my left hand. I do everything with my left hand. When I needed to roll a drawing, I had to take it off the peg and reverse the drawings, put it back on, and roll it, because I couldn't animate it on top because I keep seeing the drawing underneath it, and I wouldn't get the illusion of it moving because I keep seeing a shadow of the previous drawing. So I had to reveal it instead of covering it up. So I had to reverse the drawings, and when I flipped, I had to take the pencil out of my left hand, flip, and take it, and then draw. And that's and that's it was crazy. But again, these are the type of things I had to, and I tested constantly. And in fact, so what you need to do is you need to do thumbnails, and from those thumbnails you get the idea, and you show thumbnails to the director and they approve it and all that. It's like, thumbnails, I have no idea. I can't read I think I did thumbnails on maybe 3 scenes in my entire career, and they're all like 5 years apart.
Oh, I love hearing this. I love hearing this because
thumbnails on the Roger scene where he comes down and he goes, "All right, Doom, reach for the sky, or let the judge have it," or whatever.
Right.
All right, Weasel says, yeah. I did things I did. Let's see. I did the scene where Ursula goes, "Go ahead, make your choice." I did thumbnails for that scene. And I fell in love with those thumbnails so much, I tried to blow them up and clean them up, and they never looked as good as the thumbnails.
Yeah.
And then I think I did thumbnails for, I think there was a Hades scene I think I did thumbnails for. But but again, it's not to say I don't do thumbnails, but what I do is the thumbnails are full size and on separate sheets of paper. And then I film them, because from thumbnails, you don't get reference. For me, I don't get a reference. If a character's jumping up, I don't know how high by a thumbnail. I don't know how long a character has to do a certain action connecting with the dialogue by a thumbnail. I can maybe say, yeah, to me, that would work. And then you put it into the scene, and the character's going, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, and you have this scene and this image or this action, and you go, that wouldn't have worked. But in my mind, I slowed it down.
Yeah.
Only way I could tell was just to go through and scribble test it out. And just, I don't care about the look of the character. I don't care about it. I just want to get the feel for what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Will it work? Will I have enough time to do a certain gesture? Will I have enough time for a pause? If he jumps and lands and then says something, do I have enough time to do that, or do I have to extend the time? Is it necessary to extend it, or should I do something else? That type of thing.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the whole dance scene, that is on the internet. I usually show that Cusco dance scene because it's a stick figure.
Yeah,
it's a stick figure scene, and he's doing all the stuff that he does in the thing, and that's the way it took me 2 days to work that out. Now people go, it's a stick figure. How come it took you 2 days? Because I had to think about it. The execution was easy, but I still had to sit down. Okay, what is he going to do? What did he do? Some research, try to figure it out, try to work out the motion. And I do it in stick figures. Then I throw it up there and I put it together. And then I show it to Mark Dindal, the director. And I said, this is what I have in mind. And he goes, yeah, do that. Then comes the month-long beautiful drawings and all that stuff. But to me, that's what worked the best. Scribble tests, and I always have to explain every picture. I'm doing this for you guys. I'm talking to the directors. I'm doing this for you guys. The last thing you want is for me to waste an entire week doing a scene that you don't like. So what I'm going to do is do a scribble pass, and you tell me if I'm on the right track. And I'm going to keep doing a scribble pass until you approve the direction. Once the direction is done, then I can sit down and start doing these drawings and work out all the proportions and all that stuff. And then if there's problems at the end, then they're minor fixes. Then they say, well, that expression I don't particularly like. Okay, well, let me adjust that. But the last thing you want to do is spend a week. I mean, Jamie Lopez did this on Hercules. There was a scene where we working together on it. It was Hades, and he was sipping a drink, and you are wearing his merchandise. That. Well, Jamie did a thing of pain, and he just animated it, and Musker didn't like it. He had to redo the whole thing. That was a waste of time. So that I don't want that happening to me, because if you start to have to do it a second time, you lose something. You lose the energy. You lose the because I'm doing this again. So I always try to do scribble roughs, and on my Facebook page there, the Nik Ranieri animator page, and put all those. If I have any left that were digitized, I put those up to show the process, because it's interesting, And even then, I remember the first on Hercules, I worked with John on 2 pictures, and the first scribble test I did for him, I showed him. It's like, well, what do you think? He says, yeah, it looks good. You're going to draw this better, right? Yes, John, I'm going to draw it better. I promise. This is a scribble test. Yeah, I thought you knew that by now. But he had that.
That's, I get that all the time when I'm working with clients from wherever, right, on just small 1 to 2 week gigs. And I have to really preempt them with a paragraph of what to expect in my workflow and how it's going to look and what I'm looking for feedback. But because people don't know how to read a scribble rough versus a more tied down rough, and I've had clients say, I've submitted whole rough animations, and they're like, okay, are you going to put nice lines on them? And I'm like, yes. Yeah. And I'm going to color them too. Oh, okay.
Well, again, they want to make sure. It depends though. Sometimes they want it rough so that they can, they have a cleanup department or whatever. I don't know. But lately you don't have that. I'm doing rough stuff on The Simpsons, and depending on who I have, you got one director, it's like, just to do a circle and a line and we'll send it off. In Korea, we'll fix it. And then there's
Wow.
others who are like, no, this has to be on model. This is off model. It has to, here, let me draw the eyes. It's like, it's like you're making me do cleanup. Okay, I'm not good at
Yeah.
cleanup. So it depends on the person you're working with, I guess,
Yeah.
But
I remember in Sheridan, our goal in Sheridan, the class I was part of, was nobody wanted to still be there by third year. We all wanted to be hired by second year. And me and my ego at the time, that's what I pursued. And it ended up happening, but not in a glory filled way. But during that time, I was going to do a test for The Simpsons until I received the package, and there was a stack like that of what not to do versus the on model stack like this. And I just decided in that moment, I went, nope, and filed it away with my model sheet collection and just never did it,
yeah, that.
real minute things like the eyes can't be too cockeyed. They got to be, and just like literally a stack like that, all season 1, 2, and 3 stuff.
Which is funny because nowadays you can't bring that stuff up because they are like, no, that's wrong. It's
Right.
updated, and they keep adding rules every time. And in fact, some of them get me really upset because they hamper me from doing my work. But it's kind of frustrating sometimes when there's certain expressions they won't allow you to do, and you think, it's like saying, okay, here's a scene of the character drunk, but you're not allowed to do half lids.
Oh,
then it's like,
wow.
Well, then don't give me a drunk scene then, because what do you expect? He's going to be like this. I mean, that's the type of situation that you just go, what? It kind of reminds me of like the movie, the Charlton Heston 10 Commandments. Let's see what they would do. Let's see how they would make bricks without straw.
Yeah, totally. It's funny because when we're starting out with our careers, we want to advance, right, and reach those higher level productions and positions and stuff. And then when you get there, sometimes you wish you had stayed back.
Yeah. I mean,
but
I don't know. I mean, I kind of. It's a good gig, and the Simpsons, they're more precious about the main characters.
Well, they're not characters anymore; they're corporate representations, right?
I find they're a little bit easier on one-shot characters. And which is good because you're able to put a little more into it because there's not such scrutiny on them, they're quickly, they're designed for one shot appearance and stuff, and I mean, I'm basically doing animation layout, but it's gotten a lot more complicated. Back when they were working on the stuff in the 90s, they would like put 3 or 4 drawings in a scene and ship it out. Now you're basically posing the whole scene out. You're posing it.
Well, I mean, and it begins in storyboarding too. Storyboard artists now are layout artists. I mean, they're almost doing keys
pretty much
through the whole animatic, right?
Yeah. And then the layout goes to layout, and we do a whole lot more. I mean, I'm putting in like sometimes like 40 drawings.
That's
40
crazy.
or 50 drawings in each scene. Maybe it's my own fault. It's hard for me to see these things. I'm not a simple. I come from feature animation. I don't think. Maybe I don't think simply enough. I don't know. I hear these voices. Sometimes they have guest stars, and you go, hey, "That's a really good performance," and you hear a little thing in there, and you want to put this in and all that. And the problem I'm having is that I'm not animating it. So there are things I want to do, and I actually have to put in little bits of animation and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
And I got to stop myself and say, don't get too complicated. You're not animating. You know, it's not going to come out the way you want it because you don't have control. I mean,
right.
During Disney, I had a whole lot of control. I was working back and forth. In fact, that shot where the llama is in the rain and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I worked on that in 3 parts. I animated it, got the first part approved, which is the part where he starts and he looks around and he cries. That's the first part. The second part, he walks over to get under the leaf, and then the leaf dumps water on him, and he cries.
4-legged walk perspective.
And then the third is he gets up and he slips and falls in the mud and then crawls onto the mound again. That was the third.
Yeah.
So I did him in 3 stages. I animated that first part, got it approved from the director, gave it to Ed, who was my cleanup. He would put it through cleanup while I was tying down and cleaning up or tying down the second half. Mm-hmm. And as I'm tying down this stuff, he would bring me the first pencil test. And I'd go through it and I'd say, okay, I know I said the timing on this, but I want to fix that timing because it's not quite right. So I would go back in and I would adjust. I'd write notes on the cleanup and I would have him put more in-betweens or take the in-betweens out, or I'd change a head thing or something, and he'd fix it. Yeah. And then that would be done. And then he would get the second half to tie down and clean up while I'm tying down the third thing. So that's the way we worked, but he would always come back to me and I would check it. We put it together, make sure it hooks up and everything. There was a certain amount of control. Now it's just, you do animation layout, ship it to Korea, and whatever will be, que sera.
Yeah. I find in the last 10 years of working remotely, most of my career, except for the time I was working at Disney, has been remote work. And I find I've gotten very good at not getting married to my work.
Yeah.
Like once I ship it off, I don't even think about it again. And unless I have to rebuild my portfolio for something.
But again, I mean, it's somewhat my scene, but it really isn't my scene because I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
This is one of the first things. It all depends on how it's timed and everything like that. I did a scene where Homer was doing, and he did this little action. He did, I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen, like that. I did this, right?
Yeah.
I saw it come back. It didn't end up in the final episode. The section got cut and all that. But when I saw it in the final color, because it just goes there, it gets cleaned up, and goes right to color. Then there's no pencil test. It just goes right to color, and then they call for revisions, right? Yeah. I saw it in color, and he goes, I know what's going to happen. I was like, I thought I timed it right, but I can't put any timing charts on. No timing charts are allowed. No dialogue is allowed. Nothing.
I was just about to ask you about timing charts, seriously, because I've just the way I've evolved in my career, I've worked on productions where nobody uses timing charts. It's because we're all hitting space and play and moving things in real time, and most of us had to do our own in-betweens too. So I want to ask you about timing charts. Do they exist for you or not?
Now?
Yeah.
Well, not now. They won't.
Not now.
But when I was working at Disney, timing charts are on everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
they were more analog, right? You're on paper there.
Right. Well,
yeah.
And
that makes sense. Yeah.
The way I work is I want to leave nothing to chance. There are people, Baxter, like I said, prodigies, naturals at it. There are people who know timing charts. They know how long a certain thing needs to get from A to B to C, and they can chart it and be totally confident. Mark Henn, the guy works so fast. He's able to, and it looks great. I don't know how he does it. For me, if you look at all my scenes, it's all there. I do rough.
Yeah.
I did my own rough in betweens. I
Yeah.
I had to. I had to know that it worked. I couldn't rely on just timing charts because
Yeah.
inevitably what would happen is if I timed the whole thing out and charted it and all that, send it off, it would look floaty. It wouldn't be right. It wouldn't have the snap that I want. The secondary action wouldn't be there. The overlap wouldn't be right. I mean,
Yeah.
so the charts are there to keep people, but usually it's like follow the rough, follow the rough.
Yeah.
All my rough in betweens were in blue, all my trace backs were in green. I had all color coded. If there was a breakdown and I wanted some of it to be in between and others
Yeah.
to be changed, I would say all the stuff that's drawn in graphite is the stuff you clean up. If it's in blue, you in between it. So I didn't have to, I could rough out the blue stuff very quickly. And that's so it wouldn't flash on the screen when I'm watching the test. I needed to fill it out with something so that it would, so I could see it. And if it popped too much, I wouldn't be able to see it. So I roughed in, I hit mostly every single one of my drawings and all my scenes. I had to, especially when it got down to, I mean, look, if you look at the scene, the Cusco scene, okay, the dancing scene.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I could have done that if I had to chart it. I would have driven myself nuts trying to chart that. If you look at this, the tail, the curly Q tail, a lot that overlap stuff, because of the way it was constructed, I didn't just grab it as an object and move it like side to side. It was a curl. So each of those things were independent. So they moved in an independent way. So I was trying to, that all had to be done ones and twos, and I had to break all that stuff down. And then you have things like hair. He's got a lot of overlap on the hair. He's got those earrings. He's got the skirt. He's got the belt. He's got, oh man, there's so much. And then when you get to Charlotte, the same thing. She got the dress. She got the chiffon. She got the earrings. She got the puff. She got the hair. So much overlap on that character. And I had to do several runs on that. So when it comes to, and then Hades, the same thing. The overlapped stuff there, his cloak that was pinned, but it wasn't just pinned, it was zigzagged down, which means there's all these separate layers. So the scene he pulls his finger away from the baby. All that stuff and all the cloth took me more than the primary animation of him pulling his finger away from the baby. All that cloth stuff took me forever to do, you know? But to me, that's what makes it real. I agree. Overlap animation is it's what grounds these characters. You can convey any sort of fantastical cartoony animation if you have elements on that character that relate to reality, and it grounds the character and makes that character believable because there's something the audience can relate to. There's like, oh, this character is really cartoony and wild, and I know he is because he's in a universe that I relate to, because you got the cloth working the way I know cloth needs to work. And overlap and stuff like that. That's what made some of that early Disney stuff just so great, you know? It sold the primary animation. It's just great.
Yeah, 100%. It's so funny because it sounds like our mindsets are very similar. So despite our talent being light years apart, I've looked up to your work for a long time. It sounds like our mindset in our workflow has a lot of similarities. So I'm relieved to hear somebody who's reached the level you have talk about these things. Because I always felt like I was doing it super wrong. So maybe maybe I'm not doing it super wrong. Maybe just
I think ends justifies the means in this case, right? What do you get out of it? What comes from it? It's what the final product is, and that's always the way I thought of it, you know. And I just, like I said, I've been blessed to know that, to have worked with people to learn from all the people that I've come in contact with, even the ones where, you know, I maybe didn't get along with or whatever, I still learned from them. And, you know, it was the best job I'd ever had. You know, I like the people on The Simpsons and all that stuff, and they're great people to work with, and you know, I'm grateful for this job just because of the circumstances that we're in now. But
sure, yeah.
But people say, you know, do you like working at The Simpsons? And I say, yeah, it's great, you know. But I, for like 25 years, I had the best job ever, and there's not.
Do you have have you ever had a dream about being hired back to work on a feature film?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure it would. The studio's changed so much.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they would want, you know, take me back, even if there was something. I just, it depends.
Well, if they won't take you back, there's not much hope for a lot of the rest of us.
Again, I mean, I did a little stint in computer animation. And once I got on The Princess and the Frog, I realized just how much I missed hand drawn. And I really didn't want to go back to computer after that. I really enjoyed the experience. It was tough, but the results, I feel really good about a lot of the Charlotte stuff that I did. And man, I would love to do another feature. That would be great. Right now, I think I could do it. It'd take me a little while to get ramped up again, even though, because, you know, when you're doing animation layout, you think you have a different mindset. You're not thinking about minutia as much as when you do full feature animation. But I don't know.
Well,
but if I don't,
it's hard to say.
But if
Klaus,
I still am feeling very grateful for the things that I have worked on. There are a lot of people that are extremely talented that will never have those opportunities. That's the sad part. So I'm hoping it does come back. Maybe not necessarily for me, but for those who desire to do that, because I don't know, seeing it in a theater, if that's ever going to be a thing again, I don't know. You know, seeing the live audience response and being pretty much, you know, a face in the crowd. And not seeing a reaction to your work. I mean, that's great. It's when it comes through and it really works. And these things, no matter how many live action versions they do of them, I still think the work will still stand.
Don't even get me started on that. That's we are a big Disney family. My dream was always to work for Disney, and I hate to shoot myself in the foot, but I am not a fan of these remakes. They anger me because I know that any one of those animators has a brand new, fresh idea in a sketchbook somewhere that could be built upon, you know, that would be original, that an audience has never seen before, you know. And I just wish that we could have more of that versus remake. It gets old, you know.
Yeah, and again, I mean, what's the point? I mean, I
appreciate the technology.
Yeah.
You know, I would just love to see it on an original idea.
It's so funny because I remember I was at San Diego Comic-Con one year. I was on a panel, and I just thought I'd get things going by saying that it's a conspiracy to get rid of all the hand-drawn animated features and replace them with live-action films. I said, have you ever seen any of the CGI films being redone as a live action? No.
Wow, what a good point. Yeah.
So, prove me wrong. Let's let's make a Monsters Inc. into a live action film. Let's make let's turn Rapunzel into a live action film. Come on, let's do it. If you guys are so into live action remakes.
That is such a drop the mic moment. Just very cool. All right, sir. I am going to end it there. And I really hope in the future, in the new year, maybe you'll come back on and we can talk a little bit more about the Disney days and the real, like the nittier, grittier kind of stuff, working on the films.
Yeah.
But I really thank you for the amount of time you've given me tonight. It's way above and beyond, and I've really enjoyed this. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome, Brian. Thank you for contacting me and having me on. I look forward to future conversations.
Awesome. And if there's any links or anything you want included in the video write-up, I'll put below. Just let me know what they are, so your stuff is getting the credit.
Again, it's you scam. Get lost. I hate these stupid calls. Anyway, So as far as links go, you can edit all that crap out. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as links go, I mean, right now I'm trying to get a website going, but it's slow and lengthy and all that.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of time, but I have all of my pencil tests and stuff up on the Nik Ranieri animator on my Facebook page, which is
okay, perfect.
Nik Ranieri -animator, and I basically go through my career at Disney, and I show there's photos, there's scenes, there's drawings, there's all that stuff. So you can just go on there. It's about 7 years worth of posts, and
cool.
I haven't posted for a while since last September, because I've gotten all the way up to the end of Princess and the Frog, and I'm writing the stuff for the end where I got let go, and it's been very hard to sit down and actually do that. And so I've been putting it off. I got to get back to it and finish the story, but I'm always also afraid that I start talking about it, and although it has been 10 years, so statute of limitations, I shouldn't be having a problem. It's a totally different studio now, so I should be able to talk about it. But it's it was a really difficult time. The whole Rapunzel thing and all that stuff, and
oh, we are going to have such a good part 2. Such a good part 2.
Yeah. So.
Not that I'm excited about your pain, but again, as I said in the beginning, I like to hear about moments of disaster and how people phoenix out of it. That really speaks to me.
Disaster, yes. Phoenix, not so much,
Hey, you're not down for the count, right? You're still going at it, and that's
true,
inspiring.
But again, it's not like, and now I'm making millions. It's
right. Yeah, but it's not 6 feet under either, so that's a win.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, all right. Thank you very much. I'll be in touch. This will be out in a couple weeks.
All right.
2, 3 at the most.
Yeah.
But I'll let you know.
Okay, Brian. Well, thank you so much. And let's do this again. And
all right.
You'll have time to prepare more questions and all that.
Absolutely. That's great. Thank you, Nik.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We want to hear from you. Go to dtipodcast.com. Check out all of our social media links. Leave comments, like, subscribe, all that stuff. It really helps. We have more great guests coming up here on Drawn to It Podcast.